Hai, apa khabar semua? Selamat datang ke Balas Klasik. Hari ini saya buat satu video tentang Skye. Skye ni adalah seorang YouTuber yang terkenal juga. Beliau sekarang berada di Malaysia. Dan masa saya buat lagi satu video dulu tu, ada dia cakap 10 benda yang pelik. Dia masih ada benda-benda yang pelik jugalah tentang budaya Malaysia ni. Dalam video ni dia kata, kenapa orang Malaysia ni pakai sudu dan garpu sekali? Sebab orang UK pakai dengan garpu sahaja dan sudu tu hanya untuk sup. Jom kita dengar dia punya celoteh.
Guys, let's talk about the Malaysian culture shocks. If you're new here, I'm Skye, and for the past 4 months, I have been living in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Before I get started, I do want to say none of this is meant to be offensive. It is just purely my perspective as a foreigner living in Malaysia. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with the closest thing I can get to food, because if you're not new here, you'll know how much I absolutely love Malaysian food. So number one is these. Fork and spoon. So in Malaysia, you guys eat with a fork and spoon. That is crazy to me. In the UK, where I'm from, we would only ever eat with a fork and a knife. So eating dinner with a spoon is something which was pretty shocking to me and something which I've had to get used to. But not only that, you guys have told me that there is a specific way that you eat with the fork and the spoon. Left hand fork, right hand spoon. Where I'm from in the UK, the only thing we'll ever use a spoon for is dishes like soup or desserts or yogurt, those kind of things. We would hardly ever eat a dinner or lunch or breakfast with a spoon. But this is really shocking to me. All the other Asian countries I've been to have been chopsticks, but Malaysia is fork and a spoon. Alternatively to the fork and the spoon, Malaysians love to eat with the hand. Now, I've tried this once before, and whilst I was doing it, I did kind of actually enjoy it, though it is still very strange to me. This wasn't planned, but I do want to say also, the food in Malaysia is so pedas, so spicy. Like, everything is super spicy. You ask for something not spicy, and it'll be spicy anyway. Malaysians absolutely love their spice. I mean, if you watched my Maggi Pedas Gila video, you would see how spicy that was for me. But yeah, food in Malaysia is super spicy. And if you haven't watched that video, go watch that one next. Number 2.
Perkara nombor 2 yang Skye tak faham tu, dia kata kenapa budaya Malaysia ni yang suka panggil sis, pakcik, makcik, uncle, auntie. Jom kita dengar pula.
I actually think is quite funny, and that is the aunt, uncle, sis. The whole family thing which goes on here in Malaysia. So I was on TikTok and I was live, and I kept getting a lot of people saying, "Hey sis, how are you sis? What are you doing today sis?" And I was like, why do you keep calling me a sis? And then I realized that in Malaysia, anyone that is like a woman, a girl that somebody knows, or maybe it's if they don't know them, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments. But all I know is that people keep calling me sis. I'm not their sis, but I actually think it's quite cute. I actually kind of like the whole sis thing, though it was kind of shocking. I was like, what's going on? Along with sis, there's also aunt and uncle. So I think aunt is for like older women. So people would call somebody they know or maybe don't know that's older than them aunt, auntie. And then for the man, it would be uncle. So this is pretty funny. Being from the UK, we only ever refer to people in our family as our auntie is our auntie, aunt, uncle is uncle, and sister is sister.
Nombor 3, kenapa ada pengawas keselamatan mana-mana tempat? Di UK tak ada ke? Saya pun tak tahu, saya tak pernah pergi ke UK. Tapi dia kata di Malaysia ni pelik lah, ada pengawal security mana-mana. Tapi ada security bagus kan untuk kita.
The next one is security guards and uniformed security guards. Something which I've noticed particularly in Kuala Lumpur is that security are everywhere, and also armed security. So often you'll find in the super big malls, the popular malls, there's always security guards at the doors, the entrance and the exit. But not only that, when you go past the really expensive shops, and you will often find armed security guards as well. I was super shocked by this when I came to Malaysia. You will also see security guards at pretty much every apartment and hotel in Kuala Lumpur. This is quite shocking, but also I think it's really a good thing, and it's kind of makes you feel really safe and secure in the city. The next one is jaywalking. Okay, so I've been to other Asian countries such as Vietnam and Thailand where traffic is just crazy. There's not much structure to it, but it just kind of works.
Terusnya, Skye tak faham kenapa kita buat macam ni bila kita nak lintas jalan, sebab kita nak trafik itu slow sikit supaya kita boleh melintas. Manalah tahu ada warga emas macam saya dan ada juga kanak-kanak, ada miss-miss yang bawa baby. Okeylah tu.
But the difference in Malaysia is something called the power of the hand. Now, those of you who don't know what the power of the hands is, in many Malaysian streets there aren't many traffic lights. So for a British person, that's crazy. We would always cross the street at traffic lights, unless you're a bit of a crazy person and would just run across the road. But here in Malaysia, when there's busy traffic but you want to cross the road with no traffic lights, you just go like this and you wake your way across the street. But it works, like the cars actually stop for you and it's really, really surprising. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still terrified to do it. So I think this is something that I needed to tell you about because I think it's kind of funny but also kind of shocking. The next one isn't too much of a culture shock. I mean, it was a shock, but it's also really cute and really endearing. And that is how Malaysian people reply to thank you.
Skye tak faham kenapa orang Malaysia ni suka cakap terima kasih, thank you. Walaupun tak dapat apa-apa pertolongan. Dia tolong pun dia cakap thank you, dia tak tolong pun dia cakap terima kasih. Ini Skye tak faham. Dia kata tak masuk akal lah orang Malaysia ni.
I said this to Charlie and ever since I said it, he now notices it every single time. So let me give you an example. When you go to the Petronas Twin Towers, there's so many men around there that want to take a photo of you. Like a little business, they take a photo and it's a really good one as well and you pay them for it. You'll often get asked so many times when you walk around there and you're like, no thank you. And then they'll be like, welcome. So that's just one example, but in the UK, if somebody asked you if you wanted something and you said no thanks, they'd just be like, But in Malaysia, they say you're welcome. It kind of doesn't make sense, but it kind of does make sense. You would more say you're welcome if you were like doing something for someone, if that makes sense. So if somebody asked you for, you wanted to have a spray of perfume, you said, yes, please. And then you say, thank you. And then they'd be like, you're welcome, because they did something for you. But in Malaysia, they'll say you're welcome, even if they don't do anything for you. So yeah, that's really, really cute. But also, it was a little bit shocking when I first heard it and then started to hear it everywhere. But it's super sweet and it's really, really, yeah, it's just sweet. Okay, next, let's talk about air conditioning.
Skye, kat Malaysia panas lah Skye. Pasal tu lah kita orang pakai aircon. Dekat Grab, panggung wayang, mana-mana kat rumah pun. Kadang-kadang kita pakai lah kat rumah kan. Takut nanti bil tinggi. Tapi kita kena jugalah pakai aircon. Sebab ini bukan UK ataupun Switzerland. Sini panas, panas, panas.
All over Malaysia, you'll find aircon, and thank you so much for that because you really, really need it, especially when it's like 30 degrees outside. However, it's not just any old ordinary aircon in Malaysia. They love to whack that up to the highest that it can possibly go. Aircon is super cold in Malaysia. So I notice this particularly when I go into Grabs, when I get a Grab car, and I'm there in the back like, please can you turn the aircon down because it's so cold. Another one is when you go to the cinema, it's on full blast and it's freezing cold and there's no one to really turn it down because there's no one there. So make sure you take a little jacket or something with you if you go to the cinema. But pretty much everywhere, the aircon is so cold. I don't know if I'm the only one that thinks that. Let me know in the comments below. Is the aircon just extra cold in Malaysia? Okay, the last culture shock, and something which happens probably all over Malaysia, but I've spent most of my time in Kuala Lumpur, and that is Fridays.
Last kali dia kata, kenapa hari Jumaat dia nampak kedai semua tutup? Sebab hari Jumaat orang nak pergi semayang kan? Tapi tak adalah, bukan kedai semua tutup. Ada banyak yang buka. Siapa kata kedai semua tutup? Tapi kita orang semua dah biasa sebab ini Malaysia dan hari Jumaat best. Sebab apa? Sebab pukul 12 lebih orang semua dah keluar ramai-ramai. Pergi mana? Pergi semayang. Kita orang Malaysia dah faham. Kita dah tahu semua budaya Malaysia. So Skye, okey lah tu Skye, you dah ada kat Malaysia sekarang kan? Enjoy lah. Tapi apa-apa pun, Skye kata dia suka budaya Malaysia. Best kan?
But I'm going to get into it. So on Fridays in Kuala Lumpur, you'll notice that the atmosphere in the city is it changes a little bit. Obviously, because Malaysia is a predominantly Muslim country, Fridays are the day for prayer. So I think maybe at around 12, 1 o'clock, correct me if I'm wrong, they go to pray. And so the shops will basically just close. For example, I went to Kampung Baru, which is a super local area to eat Malaysian food in Kuala Lumpur, and I went on a Friday and everything was basically closed like in the middle of the afternoon because the people go to pray. And so you kind of do feel like the city becomes a little bit more like chill, a bit more slow because of the Friday prayer. Obviously not everywhere closes because not everyone in Kuala Lumpur is Muslim. So that is actually another thing that I wanted to mention, and that was kind of shocking, is that Malaysia is made up of like 3 different groups of Malaysians, if that makes sense. So we have like the Malay Malaysians, the Chinese Malaysians, and the Indian Malaysians. This was something that did actually surprise me because I'd never really seen that in any other country before. But I think it's really, really good, and I think it's really, really cool that you have those different parts of different cultures kind of in one country, because especially for the food, you've got Chinese food, Malay food, and Indian food all combined to make Malaysian food, and it is sedap gila. Absolutely love it. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling, and I hope you've enjoyed this video.
Makan dengan tangan lah, kita puas. Kalau kita pakai sudu, garpu, tak adalah puas hati sangat kan. Kalau dekat rumah, taruh nasi, makan dengan tangan, baru sedap. Kalau pergi kedai tu, action aja pakai sudu dengan garpu. Sebenarnya tak puas pun makan macam tu. Tengoklah apa yang kita makan kan. Kalau nasi tu, best kita makan dengan tangan. Lagi-lagi dengan sambal. Sedap. Okeylah, terima kasihlah datang ke video saya. Kalau rajin tengoklah. Lah ni untuk apa? Lah ni orang Malaysia pakai untuk kuatkan perkataan yang last tu. Betul tak? Best. Bye-bye. Jumpa lagi.